Well, good morning. Um, almost forgot. This morning was Wednesday. Still kind of crazy in the summertime for us. But hopped on here and the power went off, so I didn't get a chance to set all the cameras and stuff back up the way they were. So anyhow, we are on this morning. Monday, we were having some technical problems, so we weren't able to hop on. So we're going to try to get all that worked out for you guys so we can be on a regular schedule. Cannot believe. So this is July the 14th today. Is that right? Or is today the 15th? Today might be the 15th. Anyhow, whatever it is. Yeah, it is July the 15th. Halfway through July. And the crazy thing is, August is the beginning of our fall. So all the ministry programs pick back up in August. Women's Bible study will pick back up. Men's already started ours back on Tuesday nights. Um, oh, somebody's on here. Mike Cannon. It is the 15th. Thank you. I need all the help I can get, man. Crazy days. You guys, Mike, are y'all doing VBS this week or is that next week? I think it might be next week. Y'all's is still come up. Hey, I've got another box for you. I might be able to run and drop off for you, get you some stuff. But it's just nuts. Uh, this summer is flying by. We are getting ready to celebrate 125 years as a church. And when we planned all this stuff long ago, it sure seemed like a good time, but boy, is it all kind of compacting together. So 125 years as a church. One of the things that I wanted to do in the Sundays leading up to um, our 125th celebration is the last week of July. Good. I'll get that box to you. One of the things that I wanted to do was to do a short little series. We're going to jump back into Colossians starting in August and jump back into the letters from Paul. But I wanted us to take a little bit of time and really, as we get ready on the 26th, we're going to celebrate 125 years. I want us to take some time to really kind of get ready for that, to think about that. And so what the message was about on Sunday was our heritage. And I don't know if we think about this a whole lot. I've been digging into some of the history of the church and the town that we'll get to share with you on the 26th. But 125 years is a good chunk, and we tend to just kind of take stuff like that for granted. Think about what all this church has seen. So started in 1901. Um, we had and I'm not great on my chronology. I have it written down somewhere else, but we have um, World World War One, the Great Depression. This church has seen both of those: World War One, the Great Depression, World War Two. Of course, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the first atomic bomb, and we can't really. I mean, I've seen the movies, I've read some of the history, but we can't really dig into what impact that had on people. The atomic bomb. I don't know if you guys knew this, but they really didn't know what was going to happen when they exploded the first bomb at the Trinity site. One of the theories was that it would cause a chain reaction in the splitting. So it was fission, not fusion, the splitting of the atoms, and that conceivably, at the very least, all of our atmosphere would have been burned off. Um, that they didn't know if it would cause a chain reaction among the other atoms, and that the world would just explode, cease to exist. Um, and they did it anyway. Thankfully, it it was bad enough, but it's not what it could have been. So, the World War One, the Great Depression, World War Two, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, um, of course, the if you want to call it the Kuwaiti War in the 80s. the war with Afghanistan, um, the so going back, I should have had my timeline in front of me. Um, uh, the well, I'll go back even to the 80s. The explosion of Challenger, the shuttle, space shuttle, uh, the uh, the Twin Towers, the attack on 9/11, the eh, disintegration of the space shuttle coming back, and I forget when that was. It was right not too far around 2001, somewhere around there. Um, we have seen, oh gosh, trying to think of just all the stuff since we've been here, even the Great Recession. I think that was around 2008. Um, we've seen a worldwide pandemic, uh, crazy stuff, and this church has been around through it all. I just can't even imagine the stuff that I was around for. Obviously, that doesn't seem that odd because I was here for that. But I mean, this church has been around for 125 years. That's a chunk. Our nation has been around for 250. So half of that time, our church has been here. Our church predates our state. The New Mexico didn't become a state until 1912. Um, one of not the oldest, because New Mexico is an old place. Not the oldest church, but it's up there. And especially this far west, that's amazing. So uh, we have a lot of heritage, not just things that we've been through, but think about the things that. Uh, so the church was started in 1901. Cloudcroft became a town in 1899. But even in the early days, before Cloudcroft was a village, there was already talk of starting a Baptist church here in Cloudcroft. And so um, uh, think of the people back in that day, and we're going to be showing some pictures too on the celebration Sunday. Um, I don't know if you've seen the pictures. I wish I would have grabbed one for you of what the highway to Cloudcroft from Alamogordo looked like. It was much easier to take the train. Um, but in the beginning, the train was just for logging. I don't think that they did the passenger stuff until a little bit later. But think of man, what it would have taken to get here, to be here for the people to organize a church, and then especially in the early days. I mean, electricity wasn't here. Um, gosh, I've seen the pictures of Burrow Street, and it looks like looks like any Western movie town that you've seen, maybe short of the gunfighters. And so those people who originally met and through God's guidance started this church 125 years ago. But not only that, I've enjoyed reading through that. There was a book of history they did for the 100th anniversary, and just reading through some of that stuff. There was one pastor at one point, another one. There have been two Evans pastors here, and doubt that he and I are related at all. But it's kind of cool to watch that as it kind of progressed through. Just like stuff in our nation, there are some periods where records weren't. Uh, they're not really accessible. There was a theory that maybe there had been a fire, but here's the idea, and we see this all through Scripture. The cool thing when you're reading in the Old Testament, particularly, I don't know if you guys have ever wondered this: why did they have to do all of the feasts? Why did they have to do all of those kinds of things in the Old Testament? The one that is most notable for us is the Passover. Now that one makes more sense to us. But the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Tabernacles, I mean, all of those feasts, why did they do that? Well, here's why. It's because remembering what God has done in the past builds our faith for what God will do in the future. And God knows that we tend to forget stuff. That it's easy for us to forget. I think back We just mentioned it a little bit on Sunday, but we could have spent a whole lot of time on Sunday talking about it. The people who came out of slavery from Egypt, um, not very long at all after they did, they were saying that this is silly, but this is how nostalgic we get. Do you guys remember the cucumbers that we had back in Egypt? Do you remember the onions that we had? Oh, if only we had, you know, had those things again. Uh, they had forgotten really what it was like in the land of Egypt. They had forgotten what it was like to be slaves. Um, and they forgot how God miraculously, one by one, just showed his dominance, his power, dominion over the false gods that the Egyptians worshipped. And so God knows that we tend to forget, and so especially in the life of the early nation of Israel, um, God knew it was important for them to build moments into their life when they can recall and remember the things that God has done, and I think that we still need to do that. I think we need to celebrate more. I know as a church we do. We need to celebrate more of the things that God's doing. We're having another baptism Sunday this Sunday with two more that are going to be baptized, and we need to celebrate more of the things that God is doing for a couple of reasons. One is it's encouraging to know where God is moving and working. We don't do this enough. That even just celebrating the things that God is doing in our lives personally, but we need to do that. I love here's Joshua chapter 4, and this is when they're going over into the promised land, and this is what God told Joshua to do. He said, take 12 men from the people, from each man a tribe, and command them, saying, take 12 stones from here out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priest's feet stood firmly, and bring them over with you and lay them down at the place where you lodge tonight. So Joshua had the men to do that. And when we hear take 12 stones, we tend to think of something that you can hold in your hand. But what Joshua, the instructions that he gives to the men, tells us a little bit more about what those stones would look like. He said to them, pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan. Take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder. So these weren't like, just little rocks, little river rocks. These were stones that they would pick up, and there were 12. I imagine he picked 12 of the biggest, buffest guys, one from each tribe. Who's your biggest guy, and they carried those and they put them up, and this is cool. This is just one example of the way that God does this and instructs them to do this, to build into this the we'll call those stones of remembrance. Um, he says that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time to come, what did these stones mean to you? And that was a prompt then for parents to tell their kids, for the nation of Israel, the elders, to recount the things that God has done. He says specifically here about crossing over the Jordan on dry ground, and this isn't a little, here in New Mexico we have, I guess we call them arroyos, or even our rivers aren't that big, at least not around us. It wasn't something like that. This was something big enough that first of all, people would recognize those stones are river stones, that they're not like the other rocks that are laying around, that they came from the Jordan. And the Jordan was big enough and flowed enough that when they recounted the time of how God stopped the Jordan so that the nation of Israel could cross on dry ground, that was significant enough for them to know that God did a big thing. And then I can't help, it doesn't mention it here, but I can't help but think that went even on. And that's not all. And then talked about how God miraculously provided for them in the 40 years in the wilderness, how God miraculously delivered them from slavery in Egypt, and they would have still observed the Passover. So all those things would have been very well known to them. But stones of remembrance, that building in places into the regular routines of life, that we can remember the things that God has done. First of all, for us, um, and the cool thing is here, uh, God commands His people to remember. Here's what He says: um, "So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever." God knows that we can get spiritual amnesia real quick, and we don't think we do. We can, especially the children of Israel that just came out of slavery in Egypt. We can knock on them pretty hard, but thinking, don't they remember it was not that long ago they were slave. That's all they knew was being slaves in Egypt. Here they are, free people, and they're reminiscing. They're nostalgic about the onions and the cucumbers, that they had in Egypt. We do the same thing. How many times have we in our lives come upon some big thing? We hit this big thing, and immediately we start trying to figure out how to work it out ourselves. Immediately we start moving stuff around and trying to organize and fix the problem. We forget how faithful God is, and what we should do. Remembering what God has done in the past builds our faith or grows our faith for what He's going to do in the future. What we should do is when we hit those impossible circumstances or situations or those really tough times in life, whether individually or as a church, we need to look back and remember God's faithfulness through all the other times in our lives. Um, the second thing that we talked about was memorials are built for future generations, not just the present one. It's helpful for us to be able to recount the things that God has done in our lives. It's helpful for us to go back and just have, if you want to call it, a scrapbook of God's faithfulness as we go through. But listen, here's the thing. Here's what happens when we preserve these things for those who will come after us. It gives them a foundation for their faith. It's not their faith; it still has to become their faith, but they don't have to start from scratch. And that's one of the cool things when you think the nation of Israel, things were passed down from father to son to grandson and great grandson. Things were passed down, and so as we recall, as we recount God's faithfulness in our lives, um, it strengthens our faith for what He's going to do in the future, but it also lays a foundation of faith for those who are going to come after. I love in Lamentations chapter 3, verse 21 through 23. It says, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." And the writer of Lamentations is saying that, hey, look, I dwell on these things. I think about these things, and they give me hope that God's steadfast love, it never stops, that His mercies don't come to an end, that every morning is these things are new every morning, and it just shows me how great His faithfulness is for us. Um, Here's the danger, though, that I want to mention, and this may be why a lot of churches don't celebrate all of these things God has done in the past as much as maybe we should. Um, The danger is that we kinda get caught up in the nostalgia of the past. Have you guys ever done that? I mean, I can think of some good nostalgic times, when I was a kid. For one thing, it seemed like we had less to worry about when we were kids. Um, but, getting on, Saturday mornings, I had a group of friends. I don't even know, I guess we called each other and arranged it. I don't remember doing that, but just every Saturday morning, there'd be a group of us that hop on our bikes and we'd go do something. It might be just going and riding around in the woods. Um, I grew up in the heart of Dallas Fort Worth, but back then we still had places that didn't have houses. We just go riding. Uh, um, on Saturday mornings, sometimes we would go up to Kmart and we would go watch cartoons in the electronics section on 20 TVs. Um, we would collect Coke bottles and go sell the Coke bottles and go see a movie. Um, I remember one of my fondest memories is mom would come home from the grocery store and my buddy and I would grab the bag of Fritos and go climb up in a tree and eat the Fritos. And those are just simple things. Uh, Talking with my sisters, a lot of times they used to say, "Oh, do you remember the good old days? Do you remember all those, the good times?" And my thought was always, I don't think they were as good as we remember. We I think we were kind of poor back then. But the danger is that we get caught up in the nostalgia of the past. And so here's something that we need to remember, because we can do that as churches, and we try to revive the methods of the past, try to relive the glory days. Um, we need to remember that the stones at Jordan were never meant to be a museum. Uh, they were meant to be a compass. Um, the what God was growing their faith for was to go in and to conquer the promised land, um, not to go back, but to keep going forward. And so that it's fun to sit back and to reminisce, and it's encouraging, and it grows our faith to recount God's faithfulness. As a church, we're going to be doing that in our own lives personally, but we need to be careful that we don't try to live in the past, that we use what God has done in the past in our lives to fuel us to grow our faith for what he intends to do in the future. I love um, I thought I had, I didn't put it in there. uh, Psalm 78 talks to us about not forgetting, that's the danger. Don't forget the things that God has done. Um, First Samuel 7:12. This is the the prophet Samuel. He took the stone and he set it up. I don't think it was a little one. Set it up between Mizpah and Shin, and called its name Ebenezer. Uh, and he said, "Till now, the Lord has helped us." Ebenezer means stone of help, stone of helping. Oh, squeaky voice here. Uh, that was funny. In the men's Bible study last night, we had a weird thing happening with uh, our what do you call it? I guess it was a speaker that uh, the guys online sounded like aliens. But Samuel took that, and he we need to be better about building into the natural routine of our lives. Um, uh, just times where we remember the things God has done. A natural time to do that is Thanksgiving. That we on Thanksgiving just recount, give things that we're thankful for that God has done in the previous year. But it doesn't just have to be then. The point is we need to be purposeful in building those things into the rhythm of our lives personally, but also into the rhythm of our churches. So we're going to work better at doing that, uh, uh, about remembering our heritage. And man, we have a great heritage as a church, 125 years. Um, and I don't ever want to be the guy. I don't want ever want to be the pastor who just kind of coasts. I don't ever want to be the pastor who just kind of holds on till retirement. Um, don't want to ever think, okay, we've arrived. I always want to look at what does God want for us in the future, and that's what we're going to jump into. We'll talk about. We'll flesh this out. I want to give some practical ideas on how we build. I call them stones of remembering in our lives on Friday with Java and Jesus. But um, Sunday we're gonna launch into how do we what are we leaving behind us? How are we passing that on? What is what is our legacy that we're going to leave in the future. And so that's coming up, but don't skip out on me Friday. Friday, I want to get some ideas from you guys, but I want to give you some good practical ideas of just things as families and things as a church, ways that we can build into our lives these purposeful stones of remembering of the things that God has done. Thanks for hopping on with me this morning, guys. Let me pray for you, send you out into your week. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah. So we'll see you again on Friday, but let me pray first. Father, thank you for your love. Thank you for using us. Thank you for the great heritage of faith we have in this church, God, and for some of us, even back in our parents and grandparents and great grandparents before us. Lord, help us to never forget the things that you've done in our lives. Help us to remember them, to recall them, to retell the stories, Lord, knowing that it's not only going to grow our faith for what you're going to do in the future, but it also helps to lay a foundation for those who come after us. And God, we pray that you'd use us in ways that bring you honor and glory, in ways that bring people to faith in Jesus. For it's in his name we pray. Amen. Thanks for hopping on, guys. We will see you. Oh gosh, yeah, on Friday. I haven't done this from here in a while.